Okay, well, hey, here we are in Con Law 1 again, and I want to talk to you for a little while about the president and the courts. And the case we're talking about is Clinton versus New York. It's 524 U.S. 417. It was decided in 1998. Now, the important thing on this, and I keep getting told by y'all that I'm getting in the way, so you can't write this stuff down. So step to the side and give you a little bit of time to get the important facts here. The important thing is always remember you can get a hold of me, robdawalt@me.com. Also, I have a regular messaging feature, as you know, within our online course. You can get a hold of me that way. Or you can always call me too, and like I say, call me maybe, obviously reference to a nice cute little song, Carly Jepsen. 7322, okay? So, I mean, I'm showing you, I'm hip, come on girls, I know I keep up with this stuff. So basically, we're looking at Clinton versus City of New York. In 1996, the line item veto was approved by Congress. This was out of Congress. Now the thing is, the president did sign off on this, and the idea, this had been argued in, the people were arguing in favor of this from the time of Lyndon Johnson. And the reason is, Lyndon Johnson was a senator, and he knew, what made the world go round as far as Congress. And so there was all these pork barrel things that were going in. There's a bridge to nowhere in Alaska that they talk about that we spent millions of dollars of federal money, when the population of Alaska is like 500,000. There's not enough people to justify spending that much money. Now, a big thing that always bugs me is Indiana is so conservative that we let some of these other states get away with getting almost all the money. The good money is spent by the Department of Defense. That's one of our biggest items in our budget. Well, it's all going into the South, Louisiana, South Carolina, Oklahoma. I can see that there's bases in Colorado and Washington, but that's sure not Indiana, Ohio, Illinois. All we have basically now in Indiana is reserve centers. We don't have any big bases. And you say, well, so what? Why is that important? Well, those are jobs. And those people make money and they pay taxes. And so they help us carry the load for the state of Indiana. And it would attract more population, to the state. So not just about the money. I mean, it's just really good toward the health and, welfare of your state to get some federal money back your way. But basically they're saying, we don't want any federal money in Indiana, which is very foolish. It's a conservative view. The problem with it, though, is if we don't take money that we can get through our senators, someone else is going to get it. So it's all going to Kentucky with Fort Knox and, all these other places. So just a little side note. And the other thing is that when they came up with this line item veto, the idea was to try to cut back on the amount of this kind of money that's going out for unneeded projects. Now, military bases have to go somewhere, but my only point is, why can't some of them come to Indiana, and if anything, we're going the opposite direction. They're actually closing military bases. We used to have a very nice Air Force base up in Bunker Hill, Indiana. It was the Grisham Air Force Base, named after Grissom. Was killed, in a NASA attempt there to launch. And so what they did, they came up with an act and said, look, we're gonna reduce the amount of this in order to reduce the budget. Now, I want to take just a second and say to you, I've been reading a lot of your posts, and especially a lot of you young ladies are kind of drifting off the topic and talking, about what a cad Bill Clinton was. And it's understandable, and we'll talk a lot more about that. Believe me, you're going to have every ample opportunity to talk about that. But the thing you've got to keep in mind is that That's another case. The case is called Paula Jones versus Bill Clinton. So that's where you can really unleash the dogs on him on that one, because there's a lot of stuff he tried to pull in there that really pertains to what you've been talking about. What we're really talking about here is more of a legal argument about what does the Constitution really say about the power of the president to more or less cut budget items out of the budget that the Congress has put in the budget, if you understand what I'm saying. So in other words, they pass a bill, let's say they pass a bill that says this is the Clean Water Act, and so we want there to be clean water, and so we're going to spend some money on trying to make the water clean all over the United States. And oh yes, by the way, we're going to give New York City a little more money because they need to hire some more policemen. You with me? What's that got to do with clean water? Nothing. These are little riders that they attach to these bills. That still goes on in our country today, is that people have their own pet projects in their states, in the Senate especially. And so they want to add all these little riders and things on there. This goes on somewhat in the House of Representatives, but it just seems like a lot of the wheeling and dealing goes on in the Senate on these things, because they deal a lot with budgetary items and stuff. So anyway, they said, you know, this is just not possible. When I say they, I mean the Supreme Court said the way the Constitution is written, it's totally silent about giving the president the right to basically sign or not sign a bill. If he signs a bill, it becomes a law. If he doesn't sign a bill, that's called what we call a pocket veto, or he can write right on it, refused, words like that. In no time should he put his name on there. Even if he puts refused, Bill Clinton, that wouldn't be good. So just put refused. So that's a clear and signal that says this is vetoed. Whereas the other, what they call the pocket veto, he can just carry it around or just leave it laying on his desk, and it'll just die of old age, because after a certain amount of time, those things just die out. So in the Balanced Budget Act of 1997, they passed this line item veto act. The idea was that he could go down through and mark out a lot of those pork barrel schemes in there, like a bridge to nowhere, little bits of money that go. I know in Marion they got some money, for example, to put in some water and sewer for one specific client. And so, you know, I thought that was a little bit weird, but on the other hand, you know, they did it. So what they ended up doing was they signed off on a thing in this particular case that the federal government was going to say, well, we know that New York owes us $2.6 billion in unpaid Medicaid, but we're just going to let that pass. You know, and Bill said, man, that's not fair to the whole rest of the country. If we start letting $2.6 billion go in New York, then what if we got another million in Indiana? So next thing you know, we're talking maybe, you know, 100 billion for the whole country. So that's what happens is, you know, I notice you guys have been talking about this in Wickard versus, well, it's only 12 acres, or in Curtis versus Wright, well, it's only 15 guns. Well, the thing about it is, what if you have 100 guys do 15 guns, okay? What is that? Okay, now that's 1,500 guns. It's starting to sound significant. And the same way with wheat, you know, 12 acres of wheat times a million, that's 12 million acres of wheat, you know. If you have a million farmers that say, well, he got away with it, so by golly, I'm going to do it. And so the Medicaid issue was a big one. And then also they came up with another law about foods and capital gains, and basically they were trying to, here again, assist the farmers in this, once again totally unrelated to some other things. And so the issue was, could the president selectively choose to knock out one or the other of those things and just leave one, based on the line item veto. And so basically what the court said, yes, it is unconstitutional. You've either got to accept the whole thing as passed by Congress or veto the whole thing and say, no, you got to take this back and, you know, pull off all these little riders and then I will sign it. Problem a lot of times is the underlying bill is a very good bill. And so the president wants to sign that, you know. But he gets torn because he gets all these riders attached to really something really good. And so what they're trying to do is say, let him pick and choose the ones he likes and then knock out the ones he doesn't like. And if we can get the votes, we'll pass them again and we can override his veto. So basically the Supreme Court said, no, you cannot have a line item veto because that is not mentioned anywhere in the Constitution. So basically they talked about the Presentment Clause of Article 1. And so let me take out the phone number and put this in here so you can understand maybe a little bit what I'm trying to say. Presentment Clause. Okay, so this is in Article 1 of the actual Constitution. This is not an amendment, so we got to get used to this, of looking at the actual document itself. Many times we take the view, well, it's all about the amendments. Well, it's not. Now, next semester, a good part of the time we're going to spend is on the amendments. But this semester, really, the bulk of the time we're spending is on the actual Constitution itself, just so you understand, you know, where we're headed. So basically, what ended up happening in this is they still worked on this. New York still figured out a way to get some of this, but the main issue is basically the whole procedures as outlined and thought out by the framers of the Constitution were not followed when they passed this law to allow the president to veto some things and not other things. He's either got to accept the whole bill and make it into law by signing it, or he's got to veto the whole law and tell him, go back and detach some of these riders off of it, and then I'll consider it. So hey, I hope you enjoyed that. We're going to have more of these coming your way. I'm really pleased with the way things are going. If you have any questions, any problems, always feel free to get a hold of me again. Like I said, just love working with you guys, and it's really refreshing to be in this common law class with you. So stay in touch. Let me know if you got any particular likes in music. I'll put those up for the weekend. That's coming up soon. So we'll be putting another one of these out very soon. Thank you very much.